It's finally here. The Lamborghini Revuelto that I was supposed to do Gumball 3000 in last year has arrived, and today we're going to go for a nerdy, in-depth walk and talk on all of the specs and features of the world's very first Oro Alba Chroma Flare painted Lamborghini Revuelto. So this optically mind-blowing paint is called Oro Alba, which translated from Italian to English is Gold Dawn. Now this is an ad personam paint, which is a paint that isn't on the standard options list, but it is a paint which Lamborghini offer. Now at time of ordering this was the world's first Revuelto optioned in this paint, and I believe it was the world's first Revuelto built with this paint applied to it. Since then, interestingly, there was a car which I believe was painted in Dallas, which is also Oro Alba. Fun fact, I've been sitting on this car for 2 months, and this is the first time that I've shared it on the channel due to various different plans getting in the way. But more on that later on. The fact is that I have never stood in front of this car and seen the same shade of paint twice. Mostly it's made up of peach hues, bronzes, yellows, golds, and in the right sunlight, you will also catch a quick glimpse of like a sort of iridescent lime green. The most mind-blowing thing is that the paint changes shade and color depending on the time of day and the angle of sunlight at which it hits. Now, there are deep hues of rich purple, but there's also hues of Viola Parsife, which is an iconic paint which has been applied to Lamborghinis of old. I think it was actually made the most famous on the Diablo. But the way it shifts, I mean, I can go from standing here to standing here, and you'll see a totally different shade of purple, totally different shade of bronze. What it does for this car, because Lamborghini's design language is so aggressive, it does an amazing job of highlighting the deep sculpture, the shapes, the curves, and the aggressive lines of it. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a rather expensive paint. I'll leave you to Google the price of a paint like this, but needless to say, this has been PPF'd within an inch of its life.
Oro Alba is an extreme paint that uses interference pigments, which are microscopic flakes designed to manipulate light by interfering with its wavelengths, creating the multi-spectrum color changing effect. And yes, it's as expensive as it is crazy. So before this car even turned a wheel, AR Exclusive applied over 200 individual paint protection panels on top of a next level detail to enhance and protect this wild paint. I've been really lucky to own some special cars over the years, even some with triple layer paints that, if chipped, are a nightmare to repair. But this is on a whole different level of paint tech. AR not only created custom templates for high impact areas, but further enhanced the paint and clear coat with a detail like I've never seen before. The Revuelto is now ready for road trips, rallies, and cross-continental excursions.
Right, let's just talk about wheels, calipers, brakes, tires. These are the optional upgraded 21-inch fronts and 22-inch rears. It comes standard on 20-inch fronts and 21-inch rears. These are the lightweight forged alloys, and they are also sitting on pretty low-profile rubber. I'm going to wait to tell you the size of the rear tires in a minute because it's rather mind-blowing. But one of the reasons they are so big, obviously it suits the overall character and profile of the car. However, the reason these wheels are so big isn't just because they look cool and suit the overall profile of the car. Behind these forged wheels sits a 410mm front carbon ceramic disc and a 390mm rear carbon ceramic disc. Now get this, the calipers at the front are 10 piston calipers. 10 piston. I'm not actually sure I'm aware of a car with number plates on it that has 10 piston fronts, and at the rear, 4-pot. Now, speaking of rear, these are a 355 section rear tire sitting on a 22-inch forged alloy wheel on a bespoke compound and a special tire specifically for Revuelto. Why? It's got to transmit 1001 horsepower to the tarmac. All right, now to the business end. This is basically the most exciting new engine, I think, to have launched in a very long time. Now, combined as a hybrid platform and internal combustion engine, Revuelto outputs 1001 brake horsepower. Now, 814 of that is from the naturally aspirated 6.5 litre V12. And this is an all-new, newly developed ground-up V12 that, wait for it, revs to 9,500 RPM. The fact that that engine even exists in this day and age is something to be celebrated, and it's what really caught my attention and desperately made me fall in love and want one of these cars when I first heard it. Now, combined with the 187 horsepower from the 3 electric motors, 2 on either front wheels and 1 cleverly integrated into the 8-speed twin-clutch gearbox, that's where your 1001 brake horsepower comes from. Now, there is a first drive video of this. If you want to know what 1001 brake horsepower feels like in an NA V12 with a twin-clutch box, link in the description below. Needless to say, it pulls at the smile glands so hard that I left my first drive in this car with face ache. However, despite the fact that the majority of the engine bay is already exposed, you can open it up and expose it even further, checking out all of the crazy hybrid engineering and carbon fiber that's going on in this engine bay. But let's just discuss the imposing rear end of this car. First of all, starting with the width. Now, this is exactly, wing mirrors excluded, just the width of the body of the car is exactly 80 inches. Now, for some context, a 992 GT3 RS is just over 74 inches. And that is not exactly a slim car. So needless to say, this thing is a bit of a beast. Now, speaking of beasts, from far away, it looks like it has these massive twin tip exhausts. Clearly, there's some inspiration there from fighter jets, as per the lineage actually of the LP640, which was originally launched alongside a fighter jet on an aircraft carrier. But if you look closer, inside there's actually quad exhaust outlets. Now, these are valved. The chances are at some point I'm probably going to get an exhaust fitted to this. No doubt you've heard these things online with a proper pipe. They sound like a, not to be cliche, an actual F1 car. But right now, and once again, if you want to know what this thing sounds like inside, link below. The interior noise is actually fantastic. I don't think it needs an exhaust from the inside, but from the outside, perhaps it needs a degree of augmentation. And then underneath that is this colossal diffuser. Now, some of this no doubt is for styling, but actually these diffuser fins and the flat floor travel so far underneath the body of the car, helping with stability as the air exits underneath the vehicle. One more thing, this actually has an active rear wing with varying degrees of angle depending on how you're driving the car and the driver mode it's in. Okay, I never thought I would hear myself using the word practical when it comes to a new Lamborghini. However, two things. You're not going to believe how much stuff the Revuelto comes with from factory, and you're not going to believe that it all fits inside the frunk of this car. Speaking of which, this is how you access it on the new Revuelto key. Looks a little bit like this. Standard lock, unlock, and here's your front unlocking mechanism. You're not going to believe what's in here. Right, let's just check out this treasure trove. First of all, the whole of the frunk is a single piece of carbon fiber, which is stunning, really light. And behold, now this goes to the very floor of this car. Previously, on the all-wheel drive variations of the Aventador, your frunk was pretty compromised because big front diff. But of course, there are electric motors on the front of this, which aren't taking up anywhere near as much frunk space. So I'm going to show you what that means. First of all, this is a plug-in hybrid. We'll demonstrate where this goes and how shortly, but it comes with a lot of electrical accessories that you might not associate with a car. Certainly not a Lamborghini. I'm just going to lay this stuff out. I've got a feeling it's going to go around the circumference of this car. I don't know what that is. It's not a car cover or a bag because we've got two of those that came with this car, but it's nice and svelte and it says Revuelto. If you watched the video of the LP640, that's a delivery mileage car from 2007. And all of these things Again, I don't know what that is. But all of these things are still vacuum packed from that car from 2007. And now I've seen this stuff. It's sort of ringing quite poignantly with me, perhaps how cool it would be to keep all of this stuff preserved. This big zip bag, I actually think had that cable inside it. But I'll show you once again. Everything is fairly beautiful and Lamborghini branded. Some of the bags which I'm about to show you, you'd take on holiday with you. They're really nice. So I think that particular hybrid cable goes in that bag there. Now, this by far and away, once again, I'll show you the detail on the packaging of these things. You won't be able to see it far away. But there's this beautiful hexagonal, like embossed webbing on the surface with an embroidered Lamborghini logo. Now, when I first saw this, I thought, what could this possibly be? It weighs quite a bit. I thought it was going to be something to do with the hybrid unit, because as you'll see in a minute, there's lots of accessories to do with the hybrid unit. However, this is a carbon fiber case with billet aluminium corner blades on it. Solid billet hinges, Lamborghini logo on top. What do you think is in here? The key, maybe? No, this is a detailing set, right? Now, the detailing fluids themselves come in an embroidered, contrast-stitched, leather-bound parcel. And inside is various different cleaning products. Just look at the bottle on it. It's so nice. Even the lids have the hexagonal design language of the overall theme of the car. So what's that stuff? Glass and composite material cleaner. What's this? I've just seen this. Second bag in there. Torch. That's cool. Let's have a look at this. Honestly, we're a tenth of the way through. Don't get bored. It's quite cool. Look at that. Little keyring torch, seemingly out of batteries. Cool. Car fragrance. Shall we find out what Lamborghini thinks the smell of a Revuelto should be? I've never had to describe a smell on screen, so this will be fun. Oh, it's a spray. You ready? It smells like performance. No, it's like a citrusy sort of, yeah, it's like a light citrus smell, actually. Gloves. We've actually got three different pairs of gloves with this car. I'll get there shortly. These seemingly are the detailing gloves to absorb the performance fragrance. Upholstery cleaner, odor remover. That's when you have a brown trouser moment after deploying all 1001 horsepower, and leather cleaner. Seemingly with this comes your Revuelto How to Stay Clean pamphlet, giving you advice on the various different parts of the car, how to clean it, what to clean it with, etc. So they must have had an entire department dedicated to the packaging on this car. As I say, we're scratching the surface. All of that stuff is still in there. I won't spend time putting this away neatly right now. I'm going to put this over here to demonstrate just how much stuff came with the car and fits inside it. What is this? Again, the quality of everything. So really nice zip bag. You can probably just see on there this sort of rubber Lambo logo. No idea what's in here. Okay, next pair of gloves. They actually look like cycling gloves. They're really nice. Glove 1, glove 2. This looks like your emergency kit, breakdown triangle. I have no idea what that is. Looks like a really expensive sick bag. Fuel? Looks like a fuel can. What's it? What's that all about? Emergency fuel can. That's exactly it, look. It's an emergency fuel bag. So you could take this, fill it up at the petrol station. This is so Italian. Look at this. For car, even for food. Emergency wine bag. That doesn't get a more Italian accessory than your emergency wine bag. That is unbelievable. If I didn't have this on film, you would not believe me that that actually says that. It's got grapes on it. Vino. It says vino. Vino bag. How cool is that? So you can feed your car with it. In order of importance, your car is second on this, right? So this is basically a wine bag. That was its intended purpose, because that's the first indicator of application. Vino. Then for car, or you can use it for boating and camping. That's something I've never seen. There you go. Well done, Lambo. Mobile vino bag. Let's see what's in this box. Accessori originali. Oh, this looks like a trickle charging cable. So there's old school style clamps, I guess, to put on a battery and keep it charged. There's 12-volt style charger. There's a magnetic trickle charger that probably goes on the rear of the car, and that comes in a nice bag. And somewhere there must be a Lamborghini trickle charging pack. Haven't quite got that deep in the front yet. I'm going to do the small one before the big one. Oh yeah, spare dust caps. So this car actually comes with really beautiful aluminium dust caps, which would be a shame to lose. But if you do, they throw in a pack of 4 standard issue plastic ones. All right, the big boy. This will be the hybrid charging unit. It's got some weight to it. Are you ready? Wouldn't be surprised if there's a pizza in here after that wine bag. There we are. Oh, that's a beast. It's nice. So we have the big boy hybrid plug. We'll show you where these go shortly. There you are, look. So this is Lamborghini's first plug-in hybrid. And then there's a, dare I say it, beautifully engineered. I suppose they've thought that these things are ultimately going to end up in garages. So they haven't made them as industrial as they perhaps wanted to, but that can also hang on a wall so that you've got a really nice piece of kit to indicate your Lamborghini Revuelto is plugged in and on charge when it's at home. Probably not something that you travel with. This is probably something that is more for the sort of home dock, as it were, but there is a kit actually which we just showed you in that smaller bag that if you do want to keep it on trickle, that is also available as well. That's the second largest bag, for context, that's still to come out of there. Don't forget, all of the stuff that's come with this car, these aren't optional extras. They just naturally come as part of the car, which is kind of crazy. This, oh yeah, standard procedure stuff, instruction manuals, Revuelto warranty booklet, Revuelto warranty booklet and maintenance plan, Revuelto quick guide, Revuelto not so quick guide. Look how thick that is. So that's all of the info that comes with this car. All right, 2 big bags in here. Right, this I think, or is it this one? This one I think is the main Revuelto branded car cover. It's quite cool. Like once you've taken the sheet out of it, it's a cool kit bag. Let's have a look at this. Right, yeah, go on. Oh, I've got a feeling we've got 2 covers because one's an outdoor cover because this feels like it's got rain protection on it. It's very cool. It's very huge, like parachute huge, but just take it from me, it's got some really cool graphics all over it. But the important thing and the very cool thing is this texture, this fabric is waterproof. So I definitely think that's the outside, the outdoor cover if it's parked outdoors or perhaps even in an underground car park. And I think this one, another bag, this I think is indoor car cover. Yes, it is. That's also an indoor sheet. Lighter, not waterproof. Also, kind of cool gym bag. All of that stuff, plus, I don't know what this is. It's fixed, so maybe it's got, oh yeah, toolkit and the gloves. So these are the original old school style white leather service gloves, which having recently done a very similar exercise on the LP640 that came with all of its original documentation, all of its service info, even the Lamborghini magazine that was published in 2006 announcing that car, all came with that car, including the leather gloves. And we did speculate, because it's so old, the gloves with the Murcielago are actually creamy yellow. And we did wonder, I bet once upon a time they were white. Sure enough, they are. And they are Lamborghini branded. Very trick. This is a nice touch. Let me tell you why this is a nice touch. So we've got standard stuff in here, little spanner for some reason, towing eye. Hopefully we won't ever need that. And 4 of these. So let me show you what these are. So if you were to order these from another Italian supercar manufacturer, a set of 4 of these central wheel caps would set you back almost €1,000. So the fact that the Lamborghini have put in central wheel caps included as a spare with the car is a nice touch. And of course, if you're going to use a supercar in the UK, you're going to need an umbrella. Now I know what you're probably thinking, well that's all well and good, but what does that actually translate to in the real world? Well, we're about to find out. It's the first time I've done this, so pretty decent size roll-on. One backpack, that's full of most of Yorkie's camera equipment. Second backpack of mine should go, yes, should fit in there. And also has a little laptop in it. You could probably squeeze in something there and there if you really wanted to, but moment of truth. Oh, it's in, it's in. Also, we'll show you on the interior shortly, there's a not bad parcel shelf between the seats and the bulkhead, which I actually think you could, well, let's just do it now, just for the hell of it. Why don't we try putting this particular soft bag on the parcel shelf? I mean, if you packed two of you, travel case in the front, two backpacks and two soft bags behind you, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this in what is effectively not far off a hypercar platform. On that, they've actually made the roof height an inch higher than the previous gen Aventador, and the length of the overall tub which you sit in is 3 inches longer. So it doesn't sound much, but when you're in it, it also definitely has a wider feeling of space, improved ergonomics, and just all in all, a much cleaner, better laid out interior. Speaking of interior, let's dive into the unbelievable amount of optional driver modes and settings on this wheel. Okay, behold the interior of the all-new Revuelto. Can I just point out one thing that's very cool? Unlike some other Lamborghini products which have parts sharing from within the Volkswagen Audi group, particularly the Urus platform, in this, when you get in, everything feels proprietary, new, unseen, exclusive to Revuelto, which is very cool. However, it still has the quality, tactility, and reassurance of the build quality of an organization that is ultimately backed by Audi, which is super cool. Now, let's crack on with the steering wheel first. Alcantara clad, carbon fiber everywhere else, red 12 o'clock marker, very cool. Circumference not too big. Behind here are massive satin carbon shift paddles. What's quite nice about this, other than the cruise control stalk, which is just behind here, and I'll talk about that and why that's funny shortly, is there's no conventional indicator stalks. So when you're driving spiritedly, there's nothing to clip your hands on because these are fixed. Your steering wheel moves and there's no big stalks. So the indicators are actually here. So they're a left and right button. If you press it once, it'll blink 3 times. If you press and hold, it will stay on. In order to cancel it, you have to hold the dedicated indicator off button here. Just above that is lane hold assist. Yes, a damn near it hypercar has lane hold assist. And these two features here, distance and cruise control and lane hold assist, are all assisted by the radar dome lens, which you might have spotted in the very front of this car, a first for a Lamborghini supercar. Now let's just go straight to the big red button. Now why this is cool is it controls all of the different driver modes. By default, when you start this car, it starts in this mode here, Cita, which is city. So that actually starts the car in E mode, and you can creep and drive away in electric mode only. It's basically a totally silent supercar. Great if you want to start the car up early in the morning and not disturb your neighbors, and vice versa. If you're coming in late, you can creep in E mode. But of course, there's a much more serious application to this, which is a massive part of meeting the CO2 and emissions standards. Now, this is really interesting because when you go from Cita, you can click it over to Strada, like this, knock it over into Sport, and eventually knock it over into Corsa. Now, you might have noticed, and this is the interesting bit, when you go from Sport and Corsa, there is a little unlock on this side. Now, these two buttons here correspond to these two little indicators here. When you're in Sport or Corsa, on the hybrid control button right here, you can have hybrid, you can have recharge, but in Sport and Corsa, it unlocks performance. Now what this does is it gives all of the availability of power from the hybrid drivetrain and all of the availability of power from the engine, and that's when you get the full 1001 horsepower depletion available under your right foot. It's very cool. 2 different drivetrains, 2 different buttons in order to control them, and they've split them very distinctly on either side of this steering wheel. So you're controlling internal combustion engine, drivetrain, gearbox settings, throttle response, and over here is the hybrid drive mode. Now, earlier on, I was talking about something which turns your V12 into a generator, and this is recharge mode. And when it's in recharge mode and the engine is on, the engine idles at a higher RPM when it's still, and in neutral, it'll sit there at 1,500 RPM, turning the internal combustion engine into a generator, pushing energy back into the hybrid system. And then each of these has a button within them. So you've got the various different EV modes here, and this little flag, that's effectively, once it's in either Corsa, press that button, and that enters launch control. Now, on the theme of splitting various different modes down the middle of the wheel, on this side, you have something which is very welcome that allows you to independently control the damping from the driver mode. So even if this is in Corsa, right down here, you can choose to have your dampers in, there you go, look, soft there, or hard there. Really cool to be able to have that. So you can have the drivetrain, throttle response, shift speed in its most aggressive setting, but still have the damping compliant enough to pick apart a decent back road. And then over here, you have the different aero modes. So if you click on this, options are presented to you to put your aero into different driving modes. You can have the full attack wing, you can have the wing down, or you can have it in auto, which works out the aero profile of the active rear wing for you. And then finally, I guess slightly more boring stuff, you've got your wiper settings here. You can have them on auto, increase and decrease speed, washer there, and push to talk. So yes, you can now talk to your car and have it do various things for you. And then the massive instrument cluster, which is now a complete digital display in front of you, all of the view modes on that are available on the view button right here. So you can throw up things like your nav, and then on the back of the wheel, you can actually control different parts of the entertainment, like the volume, skipping tracks, and things like that. Just behind the wheel here on either side are tiny little control pads, which are basically arrayed as like an up-down, left-right. As you can see right now, that's allowing me to zoom in and out of the sat-nav on screen. It's pretty trick. All right, now the central touchscreen is a bit of a game changer. 8.4 inches, super responsive, and it has all of the mod cons that you would hope and expect from a brand new platform. Apple CarPlay, this is your home screen here, and again, just to demonstrate, the response of it as well is pretty sharp. Connect, this is to connect two individual devices at the same time, which I think is cool, so you can just flick between those. You can also have Amazon Alexa if you wish to connect your account. Settings, standard things that you'd expect, screen brightness, we would have different languages, sound profile, so you can do your equalization, balance. Interestingly, you could individually control the volumes of different aspects of the infotainment. So you can choose to have maybe a loud ringtone and your telephone volume up, but your voice assistant volume down. So it's just giving you a bit more flex. Easy to change your measurements over from kilometers to miles, depending on what part of the continent you're on. This is a really cool feature. So if I was to go to vehicle, we've got all sorts of bits and bobs here. So you could open the trunk, parking, and camera sensors. Let's just go to dynamics right now. You'll have noticed that over here is a passenger side display. Now, what's quite cool about this is actually touchscreen, right? So you can flick through and check out different things. So when you're driving along, if the passenger wants to be DJ or check out the nav, they can interact with that. However, you can customize apps over there by dragging and dropping from over here. You see that? How mad is that? So if I want to put the engine status on for the passenger, just drag and drop it. E-range, drag and drop. It's so cool. And then last thing, climate control. Quite cool. Just really easy to swipe through and put on heated seats and things like that. So really interesting. One of the things that I have heard from people who have had earlier Revueltos, because this is one of the later ones, it's now complete with all of the latest infotainment and software updates. I was aware that the earlier cars had to wait a few months to actually unlock Apple CarPlay as a software update. So that's cool. And then down here, this is all very familiar. This is obviously something that launched, I believe, in the US with reverse park and putting it into manual transmission, hazard warning lights, open your fuel filler cap, and the iconic engine start button. So that's in. Now I know what you might be thinking, that's all well and good when it's at home, but what do you do if you're in a more public space, like an underground car park, for example? Well, they've come up with this quite cool little solution here where there's like a secondary locking mechanism on the very edge of this carbon fiber boot. So you're just pulling up this little spring, pulling it down, and you can see it extends the locking latch. And then when you put this down here, it still clicks in and latches, but there's enough space for your hybrid lead to come out and it's still secure. Probably quite obvious now I've shown you, but I did think about it when I plugged it in. Nice little feature.
On the topic of design, Lamborghini have taken the details to a whole new level on Revuelto, down to the sculpture of the exposed engine bay, revealing the silhouette of a bull's head from the reflection of the top-mounted brake light. Very cool.
And then there's the overall design language, texture, feel, sculpture of the interior. Now, as wacky as the outside is, they've managed to make the design language and sculpture in here complementary without being too nuts, although that's probably the single coolest air outlet I've ever seen. It's a flying V of carbon fiber on multiple strands with vents and fins. It's very Lambo. You might not be able to detect on camera, but the contrast stitch is actually a copper stitch. After all, how do you go about matching and complementing a stitch on the interior when the color on the exterior changes all the time? But when you stand back, while this does have hues of peaches and purples and bronzes, I think the overall tone is majoritively a sort of goldy bronze. And so that's why it's opted with a contrast goldy bronze stitch. So you might be wondering, okay, so we've got 1,001 horsepower to play with. What is this thing doing on the channel? What are the plans for it? Well, we think it's going to be the ultimate road trip car. Road trips, rallies, events. I've got a funny feeling it's not even going to remain on this continent all the time. This might be a global travel road trip rally car. As you've seen, it's got the power, the performance, the looks, the sounds, even the practicality of traveling with multiple bags. I actually don't know how they've managed to fit all of this into one package. Now, there's one thing that I want to finish with, and this could be a controversial statement, but hopefully we're going to arrange a video to put these two cars head to head and see what's what. But if you look at the fundamental ingredients that make up the Revuelto, it's built around a carbon fiber tub. It's a rear mid-engine naturally aspirated V12 connected to a twin clutch gearbox that's a plug-in hybrid. What other car, and there's only one car in the world that has that genetic makeup, is like this? Comments below. We'll see you next time. Ciao.